I remember Steve telling me, but what he told me was that he says, I've met this girl, but I didn't make a good first impression.
She called me to go to a dance, her winter formal dance or whatever it was for her sorority, and
Steve was going to go to this dance. It was on campus. I had a job on campus. I worked as a projectionist, I guess, in one of the lecture halls. So Steve comes, and we start having drinks. Yeah, at work, and so the time passes by, and it's time for Steve to go. So he goes, and I don't hear anything from him. Right? I assume all is well.
So he picked me up for the semi-formal dance. I was in a full-length gown, I believe, or a long one anyway. And he had already had what I remember to be 7 Jaeger bombs.
He said, well, Ted had fixed this thing up, and we had some Jägermeister.
Anyway, we get on the bus. He goes to the back of the bus with his head over the garbage can. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, I'm that girl with that date that nobody wants to deal with.
Apparently there was a bus ride involved, and one thing led to another, and then I had to go pick him up from outside the dance. So
I call the mutual friend who I got Steve's phone number from, and I was like, hey, Alex, are you sober? Can you drive? Can you pick us up? Because I'd like to leave now.
So call over my friend Alex, who also knew Becky, and my friend Richard, and we all go and pick up Steve from the dance, but not Becky, I don't think.
So he comes, but in the car is also Ted and another guy, and I just wanted to get home at that point, so I get in the car too. And
I don't think we picked up Becky. No, we didn't.
We have this adventurous drive home where Steve's throwing bagels out the window at people, and the guys in the car think it's hilarious. So I leave the car, go across the street to my sorority, walk in, and my friend Julie's there.
Well, it was that evening when she came home early. For some reason I didn't go to the dance, but...
Because she was at the house studying, which is what she always did during dances.
She came back in tears. Sorry, Steve.
And I tell her the whole thing, and then my pocket starts ringing because I forgot I had Steve's cell phone. So it was like one thing after the other. So later that night, Steve calls me probably 15 times to apologize. Once he starts to realize what people are telling him what happened. Yes. Hey.
And I think she received about 15 calls from Steve. I don't remember if she answered them or not. I think she answered a couple of them, but they were mostly Steve, just very apologetic.
And is that the infamous night?
it is definitely an infamous night for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so we don't have to cover that here today now, but that morning after is interesting too, and less told, I feel like.
It is. I think so. Yeah.
It's
a much better part of the story, actually.
That morning meeting. Walk us through that.
Okay, I'll do that. You want me to do that?
Please.
So, I get up in the morning and yeah, I don't know. I felt too sick to sleep or something, and so I went and I took my suit, threw it over my shoulder, and decided to walk down the street to my car where I had parked it previously in the day. So I'm walking down the street, and sure enough, my car is not where I parked it. So it was stolen or something. I don't know where it was.
Ted had taken his car for fast food and didn't tell him.
His car was down there. It was parked in a 2-hour zone. He was planning on going home that night. So I had to move it out of the 2-hour zone.
So then the next morning, it's like 8 a.m. There's nobody on the street, and I'm going on a jog.
And in the distance, I see this person across the street and jogging towards me. And it's one of those moments where it's like, God, I hope that's not Becky, but it looks like her. And she's far enough away that it could be any, there are 500 girls living on the street. It could be anybody.
Way off in the distance, I see this guy carrying a suit over his shoulder. And I'm like, there is no way that is Steve. There's no way, because that wouldn't happen.
And sure enough, we are the only two people standing in the middle of the street, and it's, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning. on a Saturday. Like, I mean, who's out? Nobody, just us. This is going to be the most embarrassing moment of my life. I distinctly remember she stops, she gets like this Becky smile on her face, this like, you know, sort of like an like, I have to talk to you now kind of a thing. But I went over and all I said to her, only thing I could think to say was, let me make it up to you. Like, I apologize, there's nothing I can do to fix that, except let me make it up to you. And I called her that afternoon and we hung out that night. Like,
The best part
that's
though
all I
is
could
he
do.
was like, I don't know where my car is.
And I didn't know where my car was.
He's got his suit
And apparently there are multiple versions to the story of where my car was. I still say that my car was used by my friend that evening to purchase fast food. That's what I think.
I'm very curious what the real story is, because that's what I've thought for 7 years. If Steve drove it?
Did not move that car.
Yes. Chelsea's laughing.
I did wake up wearing a Mexican flag, but I did not move that car.